From the banks of the Colorado River in Lake Mead to the homes and businesses in Southern Nevada, welcome to Water Smarts, the podcast pumping from the heart of Las Vegas, where we engage with the experts who keep the water flowing throughout Southern Nevada. I'm Bronson Mack.
And I'm Zuelke. From how we treat it, deliver it, use it, protect it, and conserve it, the Water Smarts podcast is all about water in Southern Nevada. We hope to make you a little smarter about the one thing that keeps us all connected: water.
Hey, Crystal, how are you today?
I'm good, Bronson. How are you?
I am doing great. Happy to be here to do another episode of the Water Smarts podcast. We're very fortunate to be able to do this and communicate with the public in this way and provide great information about water conservation and resources that are available. You know, it really is a pleasure and an honor to be able to do this.
Yeah, and we've got a good topic today that pretty much I think any homeowner can relate to. I can relate to it right now. Being a homeowner sometimes is really hard.
For
I think
sure.
You own your home, so you know I'm dealing with a challenge right now. We just discovered a little leak in our water heater.
Oh.
So you know how it goes. Now we got to figure out, we got to get someone out. We got to fix that.
You know, sometimes finding the appropriate services that are available in the community can be a challenge. You're going to Google it. Not too many people go to the yellow pages anymore. Of course, there's always Craigslist, but you never know what you're going to get on Craigslist. And so actually, you bring up a really good point because the Southern Nevada Water Authority now has a new resource that's available on snwa.com. It's a new program that the Water Authority has put together. It's called the Water Smart Plumbers program. And really what it is a program where we engage with plumbing companies, do some training with them when it comes to water conservation and kind of what we see as far as property owner leaks. There's some other criteria associated with this, but the most important piece is that all of the plumbing companies that have gone through this program are listed now on the Southern Nevada Water Authority's website. So if you need a plumber and you're not sure who to call, you can go to snwa.com. You can find this contact information for various plumbing companies. And today to talk to us here on the Water Smarts podcast is Toby Bickmore, Conservation Services Administrator for the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Toby has been instrumental in putting together the Water Smart Plumber program, and he's here today to share with our listeners. Toby, welcome to the Water Smarts podcast.
Thank you, Bronson and Crystal. I appreciate it. I'm always excited to talk about new programs that we get started.
Well, you're certainly a veteran of this podcast. We've had you on a couple of times, and we're really glad you were able to join us today. Toby, on the Water Smarts podcast, we often talk about tips and resources and information for people and property owners and the public to find on the Water Authority's website, snwa.com. And now there is another great online resource for these property owners, especially those that are dealing with leaks on their property. Can you talk a little bit with our listeners about the Water Smart Plumber program and how it benefits the public?
Sure. So it's a program that we have been thinking about for years. Plumbing is always, right, has to deal with water, so it's really critical at a home. And we had a similar type of program, and it's in place, is our Water Smart Landscaper program, which obviously helps people on the landscaping side. And we said, well, the other area that has equal issues for people is just dealing with things around their property like leaks. And with things that have evolved over the last couple of years, every drop counts anymore. And so this is one of the areas that we said, well, as we kind of have more communication and more things going out to customers about leaks and having more issues, we really need to start a program that gives them a tool to kind of address that. And so we started working with the plumbing industry about a year ago to develop the program, and we launched it just in March of this year. We have 12 plumbers on our website, and they are basically just an asset for customers. So if they have leaks around the house, indoors or outdoors, if there's just something that they can't quickly fix themselves and they have to hire a plumber, we wanted to give them a good resource of where to reach out to. And so that was the genesis of us developing this program. It's just another tool for homeowners.
And Toby, you mentioned we have 12 of them right now listed on our website, but we really expect that list to grow as the program continues and more come on board and do the training with us, right?
Absolutely. On the website, there's actually a tool there for plumbers that are maybe interested in joining the program. So there's a tool, where they can sign up and say, hey, I want to participate. And yeah, we have 12. And actually, I just added another one. So now that I'm saying that, we're at 13. So I just added a new company yesterday. And then I just had an email actually this morning from another company that's interested in joining us. We're going to cover it. There's set criteria and certain rules and stuff for participating in our program. But I think it gives us even better options for our customer base.
Excellent. So one of the things I wanted to point out is that the Water Authority is offering this information about Water Smart Plumbers at no cost to customers, but the program is not offering financial resources to pay for plumbing services. Can you elaborate a little bit about that?
Obviously, we have a lot of rebate programs, right, where we provide incentives and things like that. But there's also other tools that we have that are just that, tools and resources. And so the plumber program is that. It is a partnership with us, with the plumbing industry. And so there's really no financial situation between us and the company. And then also the resource is just available to customers. We're not providing assistance to fix things. It's still a relationship between them and the plumbers. But again, it's just giving them a credible list to find plumbers. But yeah, there's no incentive or rebate that we are providing, to participate with them.
So let's talk about what it takes for a plumber to be part of this new program. Like the Water Smart Landscaper program, they need to go through special water efficiency training. What else do they have to do specifically?
Well, so let me just talk about the training just really briefly, right? So there is a 6-hour training that they have to do. And in that training, what we're doing is we're just kind of covering the water resources at our valley. So, they're plumbers, they're kind of on our site. So we want to make sure they're not necessarily an expert of SNWA, but definitely aware of what's going on from a water situation, right? And so that's part of our training is just giving them that education. We also have a heavy focus on leaks in the training. So because leaks is such an issue, we want to make sure that they're aware of technologies and the tools when they go to visit a property. We also highlight water sense fixtures. So that's some things we mentioned several places on our website, high efficiency fixtures and appliances. And so we want to make sure that they're aware of that. Doesn't mean they're always going to use it, but at least they're aware of the tools that customers can have to save water. So they have to do that. Then the other things are they have to be in business within the Valley for the last 5 years. So we want to make sure it's not new companies that have just opened up in the last 6 months or a year, right? We want to make sure there's some credibility to the company. And they can't have had any issues with the state contractors board. If somebody has an issue with a contractor and it gets really where there's some bad things going on in that relationship between a customer and a contractor, the contractors board will track those. And so they cannot have had any issues in the last 5 years. So we want to make sure that the companies are in good standing. There's a couple of things, and I think we'll talk a little bit more, but there's also with warranty of work, we have to give a warranty on the work they're specifically doing. There's a couple of things that we have criteria for their service when they're going out. I know we're going to touch a little bit more on that coming up.
Yeah, I think, Toby, you just ran through some good criteria there. Licensed plumbers, skilled plumbers, all of that is very important. You also want to make sure that you aren't hiring a company that has significant discipline or complaints or issues with contractors board. So that makes a whole lot of sense. But you mentioned the warranty of work. Is it common for plumbers to not warranty their work?
Well, what's interesting with the warranty, and again, this is going through the last 12 months of working with the plumbers. And so what happens is often, say they work on a certain, part of a main line coming into a property, right? And there's a crack somewhere and they fix that. Well, then all of a sudden, somewhere along that main line, another place, it has a crack. And then all of a sudden, the customer will come back to the plumber and say, hey, you didn't fix it. It's still an issue. And so that's where they have a concern often about doing warranties on work they do. And so in our program, what they're just saying is that they will warranty the specific work that they do. And that is kind of an industry thing, but we just wanted to highlight that for customers. But of course, again, they could come out and, like you said, fix a toilet, right? And then your hot water heater goes out the next day. Well, that's not their fault. And they just want to make sure that they're not all of a sudden warranting everything that has to do with water on the property, even though they visited yesterday.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you made a good example there, like that main line that connects the water meter to the home. Once that begins to leak, certainly you can go in and repair the individual leak and patch it up, slap a Band-Aid on it, if you will. But once that type of infrastructure begins to fail, you slap a Band-Aid on it or just make that one repair, you should expect that you are probably going to see other leaks along that line in the future. That's why a lot of times it just gets replaced in its entirety. Toby, let me just ask you another piece that you had referenced there. You mentioned that the program requires plumbers to provide written bids based on hourly rates rather than flat rates. Can you just help our listeners understand what the benefit is there to them?
So the reason with that is often, and we've heard this from customers, and main line is one of the biggest things, right? So fixing a main line costs a lot of money. And so they will have plumber A that will come out honestly, and they'll say, okay, it's $5,000 for this project. And plumber B will come out and it'll be like $15,000. So then the customers are like, I don't know why, what's the big difference, right? And it's not itemized, it's not listed. It just says this is the total project amount. In talking to the plumber industry, in talking to customers, we kind of said, okay, is there a way that we can get out of that, right? Because I think that kind of gives the plumbing industry itself a bad name, right? When you just have this wide variability. And so we said, what way can we give customers a little more comfort knowing that when you come out, you're actually charging for what the work actually is? And they said hourly is a way to do that, because then you say, okay, I'm going to come out, it's cost me $100 an hour, $150 an hour. And then it's just however many hours it takes me to fix a project, that's how much you're going to pay. And so it was a better way for charging the customer to have a little more comfort about it.
It gives the customer a more easy way to comparison shop for these services. And these services are skilled services. Not to say that they shouldn't be expensive, because, again, I'm not going out there and digging up the pipe. I don't have the skill set to replace a water heater or do something like that necessarily. So I would need to hire somebody with those skills. And hiring somebody with those skills, it comes with a price.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I mean, it is a new program, like I said, and there's certain things. And the pricing was one of the things in talking to the plumbers. There's some very good plumbers that have very good reputations that won't do hourly. They only do like by the project. It's one of those things. We will continue to evaluate this program like we have with all of our programs over the next year or two. And if certain things work and certain things don't work, we can always make some adjustments. But again, that was the early feedback we got when we set it up. And we'll see how it works over the next year or two.
So, Toby, I know you're kind of talking through the pricing and how a lot of plumbers work when they come out to a property, in some way, sometimes upselling, if you will. Can you give us an example of how a plumber might try to upsell a person on services that they don't need? And then why did SNWA make that a part of the program?
I was talking about some of the pricing issues is what kind of gives some of the plumbers a bad name, right? Because of the wide variability. Honestly, upselling is the other thing that actually can give people a bad taste in their mouth in their experience with a plumber. And so what that means is somebody will hire a plumber, for example, to replace the hot water tank, right? Well, by the time the plumber is done and they did the hot water tank, replaced all their toilets, replaced all their faucets, they did all this extra work that they had no plan on doing. And so, instead of a $2,000 project, they come out with owing a plumber $10,000 or $15,000 because of this upselling. So we really wanted to kind of limit that. We talk about that. It's in our contract with the plumbers in our program, is that we will really limit any upselling that they will do. Obviously, if they're on site and there's some credible issues that they need to address with the customer, if they notice some things, I mean, there's going to be some of that to fix things, but we just don't want them to do this whole house kind of switch out, on water issues, which we have seen occur. And there's lots of horror stories that we've heard from customers and other plumbers about certain companies doing that type of thing. And so we just really wanted to limit that in the criteria of our program.
So if our listeners need a plumber or want to find a water smart plumber, all you need to do is go to snwa.com. You will find the Water Smart Plumber program information there. That information includes company names, phone numbers, links to websites for these plumbers. So all of those resources are there and available. But Toby, you mentioned that the plumbers need to go through water efficiency training. Can you just talk a little bit about what they learn or are refreshed upon in that kind of a class?
Yeah, so we have the initial training when they join the program, which will be one-time 6-hour training. And actually, the training that we held, we actually developed a class with IAPMO, who is one of the national plumbing organizations. And so we actually had somebody come from back east that had a lot of expertise in leak training and just educating the plumbers. And so they have to sit through that class. And part of the material is the water. So what's going on with SNWA water in general with drought, so they can talk to people about that. Some of it's about our program, obviously. So we give them information on that. And of course, the plumber should know that. And then it's a big highlight is on leaks and leak detection. There's some pretty neat technology that's coming out. Some of it's things like trenching, like the different methods for trenching for main lines, again, because that's kind of a big cost thing. And that's one of our big issues from a water loss standpoint. And then, like you said, fixtures and hot water delivery, anything you can think about plumbing is included in that training. And so that's the main training. And then what we're going to do is all the plumbers that are participating in our program have to do a 2-hour refresher once a year. And so that will be on special topics. If there's certain things that have come up, if there's new technologies in leak detection, if there's new ways to do hot water piping through the house or things like that. So just new things for them to keep them up to date in what's going on as far as industry requirements and trends and happenings in the plumbing world.
And you mentioned IATMO as being a partner in putting all of this curriculum together. And for our listeners, IATMO is the International Association of Plumbing and Mechanical Officials.
Yes.
Yeah. So what you have there is you've got the professional organization for plumbers participating in this. I think that just gives some further validity to this training that goes on, and that it is probably extremely valuable for the plumbers as they go through it.
Yeah, and I would say there is a couple. There's IATMO, there's one called PHCC, which is a Plumbing Heating Contractors Association. We've worked with all of them. Actually, there's a local 525, which is the local union that actually does all the plumbing work as well. And they do more of like the casinos and things. So we involved all the different organizations and groups in the development of this program.
Now we have the Water Smart Plumber program to add to the Water Smart Landscaper program, and we've had that for several years. For anyone who doesn't know, the Water Authority offers local landscapers and landscape companies free water efficiency classes and lists them on snwa.com. So that's a free resource that we offer to the community. If you're looking for someone to upgrade your yard from grass to drip irrigated trees and plants, or just to provide weekly landscape services, you can find them on our website. What else should customers consider if they want to lower their water bill or be water smart, Toby?
Water bills are a big issue right now. If water rates are going up, we know a lot of customers are starting to hit into what we call our excessive use charge, the higher amount that you could be paying for water. So water management, water control is really important. There's a couple of key things. Obviously, if you have grass, that's the biggest way, is to take out grass because that uses the most water. So if you can go from grass to desert landscape, that's the biggest. Identifying leaks is really critical. If you have leaks that are on your property, again, that's where you would bring in a plumber, a landscaper to address irrigation. So leaks is a big issue. And then water management is a key part. And so that goes to our classes that we offer. We teach people about how to manage their water in the landscape. And that really is knowing your irrigation controller. So I'll put a plug in for smart irrigation controllers, which will help people manage their water. There's a lot of tools that we have, again, on snwa.com that has the different ways you can do it. But those are kind of the three big ones is, participating in our programs, finding and taking care of the leaks if you have them, and then just water management in general. And those are tools that we talk to whenever we're talking to residential people about ways to get their water use down.
And even one other way is through the Southern Nevada Water Authority's Water Smart Leak Detection program, a rebate program for leak detection devices that you can install. Having these kinds of leak detectors will alert you to any changes in water use, if there are any leaks. And, if that's a leak inside the home and you happen to be someone who travels a lot, a leak detecting device might be really good for you because you are protecting your property while also keeping eyes on your water use while you are gone. Toby, quick question for you. If somebody had a leak in their irrigation system, would it be best to call a Water Smart landscaper or a Water Smart plumber?
If they know for sure it's in the irrigation system in the landscape, then you want to call a landscaper because landscapers usually are a little bit cheaper than a plumber. So it'll just, save you a little bit more. And the landscapers are trained, obviously, in landscaping, right? But I will say a lot of times when we have people come to us and they say they have a leak, they don't know where it's at. Right. So they don't know if it's indoors or if it's in their landscape, like in the irrigation system. Mm-hmm. And so generally speaking, you're going to bring a plumber out to start off with. Now, the plumbers, and that is part of a training that we did, is we also did a little bit as far as irrigation, and we went through that with them. And they usually have some basic training. And so when a plumber comes on site, they're trying to identify a leak. They will isolate and go through the house. They'll find out if the leak is indoors or if it's outdoors, if it's in your pool, because pools are a big source of leaks, or is it in the landscape? And ours on our list will then give the customer advice, right? So, oh yeah, I found it. It's in the your irrigation system. Go find a landscaper and hire a landscaper to address it. But like you said, if somebody knows for sure it's in the landscape, then they should definitely just go directly to a landscaper to address the issue.
So with that, then you can do a little bit of investigation at your property to try and at least rule out areas or eliminate areas where that leak might be occurring. And if you go to snwa.com and you just look up find and fix leaks, we have a series of videos on how you can identify whether there's a potential leak in your main line, in your irrigation. Is it a toilet? Is it a faucet? Is it a water softener? And they're just very short videos, just give you a couple of tips on a couple of things that you can do to try and determine whether or not that's the source of the leak, or if it's not. And then if you hire your landscaper or your plumber, you can help guide them into what you have found, and that could potentially minimize costs for you as well.
So we've talked a lot about how homeowners can find a plumber or a landscaper on our website. But what about plumbers and landscapers who want to sign up for the programs? What do they have to do to become part of the program?
On both the landscaping page and the plumber page, there are links for landscapers or plumbers to basically submit an interest form. So there's information, right? So all the criteria of participating is listed on the website. And then there's an interest form where they can submit. And as I mentioned at the beginning, like I just got one this morning. So I'll be reaching out to them and going through the requirements, get them set up for training and so on. And the same is for the landscapers as well. But really it's driven through our website, snwa.com, where they can actually submit an interest form and say they want to be in the program and participate.
All right. So usually at the end of every podcast, we encourage people to submit questions that we can address on the program. We've had several recently about the new Las Vegas Valley Water District excessive use charge. One of the questions is related to filling your swimming pool. Some people are under the impression that if they notify us about filling their pool in advance, that they won't be charged for the excessive use charge, which in the summer months is 28,000 gallons. That's the threshold. Anyone who goes over that will get charged the excessive use charge. But that's not really accurate, is it, Toby?
No. And I just realized and found this out myself in reading the code. In Henderson, you do have to notify them when you're changing the water, which actually in Las Vegas Valley Water District, you don't unless you're on a groundwater where you're actually having to drain water into the street. Then you would actually call up and notify. But as long as you're putting it back into the sewer, you don't have to do an advance notification. But getting away from all the notification part of it, it does not exempt you from excessive use charge. So when you are putting water back in the pool, you are going to pay for the water. In the past, when winter water was, obviously very low, that's usually when we encourage people to do the water changes in the cooler months, right? When you're using less water in the landscape. But we did some research actually in the last month or two and found now it really doesn't matter between if you do it in the spring, summer, or fall, winter. Your thresholds adjust for the excessive use throughout the year. And so if you have a decent chance of hitting the excessive use by putting water in your pool in the springtime, you're going to have the same chance as if you had done it in the winter or the summer. It kind of doesn't matter. You could hit any of the seasons, could actually take you into that excessive use. But notifying doesn't exempt you from paying excessive use charges on it.
Hey, Toby, got another one for you, and it is related to the water district's excessive use charge. And people are not aware that the excessive use charge is really geared toward the top 10% of residential water users in the Las Vegas Valley Water District service area. So, Toby, what recommendations do you have for our listeners to help them manage water use and avoid that excessive use charge? Should they be focusing on indoor water or outdoor water, both? What say you?
Right. Well, generally not indoor, right? So indoor water use is very minimal compared to outdoor. Like if you just see this, the information and the statistics, you're talking usually it's like 5, 10, 15% of the water is indoors. The majority of it is outdoors. I think I touched on this earlier. So it's those three things that you do. First of all, if you have grass is going to use a lot more water than desert landscape. So if you have grass, especially grass that's non-functional or grass that you really just don't use, replace it. And that's going to give you the biggest savings of anything. Then beyond that, leaks. So find out leaks. I mean, you could have some pretty catastrophic leaks that would be a lot of water use, but usually you'll know that. But sometimes you have leaks in your irrigation system that you really don't know about because it only happens when you turn your irrigation system on. And so then it will not be triggering anything that you may not be aware of. And so that kind of entails just walking around. I always tell people, just walk your yard, at least a couple of times a month. I mean, if you can once a week and just look to see if you have pooling that's going on where it shouldn't be, see if there's stuff spraying, listen because you'll hear it. That's where a lot of extra water use could occur. And then the final thing is just water management. Watering on the days you're supposed to. Say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you shouldn't be watering more than 3 days type of thing. So definitely watering the amount of days you should be. And then just watch your run times. Like how long are you watering your grass? How long are you watering your desert landscape? A lot of people in our valley way overwater for much longer durations than they need to. And so I always tell people, just start cutting back a few minutes here and there, and you'll start to see lots of savings in the gallons just by reducing the amount of run times you do for your irrigation system. And then the final thing I would say is people way overwater drip irrigation in our valley. We see a lot where people drip irrigate in the summertime 5 or 6 days a week because they're allowed to do it 5 or 6 days a week, where really they only need to be watering 2 or 3 times a week.
Great tips there, and I can testify. I actually kept all of my summer watering on my drip irrigation last summer, 3 days a week. My plants did great. My trees did great. Everybody survived the hot summer. We did that on 3 days a week. Toby Bickmore from the Southern Nevada Water Authority. Great tips, great information about the Water Smart Plumber program. Visit snwa.com where you can get more information on the Water Smart Plumbers. If you need them, all that contact information is there. Toby, thank you so much for joining us here on the Water Smarts podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Well, Crystal, another great show. Lots of great information here. I mean, look, if you ever have had to deal with a leak on the property, you know how challenging it can be. Google searching for a plumber. So this is a great resource for homeowners and property owners.
Yeah, there's really so much to unpack here, but so many good takeaways from this. One, I appreciate that Toby hit on a couple times is how important it is now to manage your water. And that's, really paying attention to your bill and looking at things closely so that if a leak does pop up, you're on it a lot sooner than later, trying to avoid that surprise bill. But also the program itself does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Think about all those things that you want to know about a plumber if you're hiring one. Are they in good standing? Have they had any issues? Are they responsible? Are they credible? And the program does all that heavy lifting. So it's kind of nice because when you're in the moment and you need somebody to come out and fix your leak, you just want to call somebody and get them there and do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I should just be clear, we are not necessarily recommending any one specific plumber through the Water Smart Plumber program, but rather providing some background and training and resource for the plumbers that are a part of that program so that when you hire them or if you decide to hire them, you at least have a little bit more confidence that you know what you're going to be getting. That's it for this episode here on Water Smarts. We hope you subscribe and listen next time. Thank you for all of the questions that we have received. If you have questions, you can reach us via email at watersmarts@snwa.com. That email address again is watersmarts@snwa.com. You can also visit our website and reach us through our contact page. We'll get back to you with an answer, and you might hear your question on the next podcast. Thanks for listening, and we hope you join us again here on Water Smarts.